This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
All right. Shall we make Speduncle happy and actually talk about Prince of the Ravens?
Nah, I think we should make Speduncle specifically unhappy and keep bullshitting about ancient cities.
Speaking of trash, looks like Matt is going to take some out in this chapter.
Yes. Where did I put my book? Oh.
Did you like that transition? That was pretty good.
That was good. We are dealing with some trash people. Matt cleans them the fuck up.
In a very risky strategy, by the way, reading through it. The whole, let yourself be surrounded and shoot them and hope you can, stand up long enough while your crossbowmen shoot them.
This has always been one of the battles that I was most able to understand, but least able to, understand.
Right.
I have a hard time with battles, but with this one, I'm like, no, I get what's happening. I actually am following the action, but what the fuck are you doing, Matt?
Yeah.
You're deliberately letting yourself get surrounded and choosing not to wear armor.
Yeah.
At the same time. Those two decisions. I get one or the other, but the part where he left himself no bolt hole and didn't bother to buff up his AC, dude, what are you doing?
Also, I'm like, okay, Aes Sedai, I feel like I'm finally in danger now. I would feel in danger the second there was an army charging at me. Right?
Likewise.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This need...
If a man 20 feet in front of me just had an arrow go through his eyeball, I am very much in danger.
Exactly. So, okay. So let's talk about it. I'll do a read-in.
All right. Yeah. We'll get there. There's a lot of blood.
Blood battles, but a lot of politics and people stuff too.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes, we are.
Read us in.
Chapter 37, Prince of the Ravens, a.k.a. Matt Cawthon. And our symbol is the dice, because it's a Matt chapter.
And it's a gamble of a chapter.
Prince of the Ravens. Leaning on the tall pommel of his saddle, Ashendari slanted across Pip's neck. Matt frowned at the sky. The sun was well past its noon height. If Vannon and those Deathwatch guards did not return soon, he might find himself fighting a battle with the sun in the crossbowman's eyes, or worse, in twilight. Worst of all, dark clouds loomed over the mountains to the east. The gusting wind was out of the north. No help there. Rain would put the weasel in the hen yard. Bowstrings fared poorly in the rain. Well, any rain was a few hours off, with luck, but he had never noticed his luck saving him from getting soaked in a downpour. He had not dared wait until tomorrow. Those fellows hunting Tuon might have gotten another whiff of Khareed's men, and then he would have had to try attacking them or laying an ambush and carry it out before they could catch Khareed. Better to have them come to him at a place of his choosing. Finding the proper spot had not been difficult, between Master Rodell's collection of maps on one hand and Vannon and the other scouts on the other. Elaida was fussing over one of her tall, metal-bound lofting tubes, beaded braids hiding her face as she examined something at the broad wooden base. He wished she had been willing to remain with the pack animals like Tom and Mistress Anon. Even Noel had been willing to stay, if only to help Julian and Amathera make sure Oliver did not run off to watch the battle. The boy was dead eager, which could soon lean to plain dead. Matters had been bad enough when only Harnan and the other three had been corrupting Oliver, but now he had half the men teaching him how to use a sword or a dagger or fight with his hands and feet, and apparently filling his head with tales of heroes from the way he had been behaving, begging to go on raids with Matt and the like. Elaida was near as bad. Anybody could have used one of those strikers to light a fuse once she had loaded that tube, but she insisted on doing it herself. She was a fierce woman, Elaida was, and none too pleased at finding herself on the same side as Seanchan, however temporary the arrangement was. It seemed wrong to her that they would see some of her handiwork without being on the receiving end. Llewellyn and Doman sat their horses nearby, keeping an eye on her, as much to make sure she did nothing foolish as to protect her. Matt hoped Llewellyn did nothing foolish herself. Since there was apparently only one Seanchan with the people they would fight today, she had decided it was all right to be there, and the way she glared at Musenge and the other Deathwatch guards, it seemed she might think she had something to prove to them. I think we'll stop there.
I like those two paragraphs. It's good. It's good characters.
Good characters. I mean, this is peak Matt character with all of his menagerie around him, right? All the people he's collected.
It's kind of like what we were talking about in the last chapter with Khareed, how it's fun to see these characters in their leveled up position from unfamiliar eyes. It's also good to see our leveled up characters from within familiar eyes.
Yes.
So we're kind of looking at the same thing Karede saw through the more familiar eyes of Mat, but seeing things like Oliver really being leveled up. Because, right, Karede didn't know anything about Oliver. He doesn't care about Oliver. But Mat's looking at Oliver going, oh, shit, kid's level 5.
Yep.
Like, he's coming up in the world and seeing Eludra's progression, which, again, Karede has no context to understand Eludra through. But, like, she is, like, multi-classing at this point or whatever, right? And it's like we're on the brink of battle. We're on the brink of everything going to hell. And this is our final form. And Mat looking around at his team going, this is what I have to work with. I think I got this. Is good. It feels good. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously he's not working with Oliver. He's terrified for Oliver. But like, you know, in broad.
Right. And so what he's setting up is this battle, right? There's this group of people who want to hunt down Tuon, and he's trying to kill them. And the numbers are kind of insane. But he's far outnumbered, and he's depending on his ability to pump out a lot of crossbows bolts very quickly, having channelers on his side, and having fireworks, explosives, grenades, essentially.
He is relying on deception and surprise to make this battle work, right? He has been lying to the Shan-Shan this whole time with the way that he's used his resources. He's really, really set up them to believe something else. I mean, even his allies on the Shan-Shan side start up being like, how many people do you have? And he's like, vague answer. And then at the end of the chapter, the guy is like, you never had more than this, did you? And Mat's like, I said I had enough. Mm-hmm. And dude's like, oh, shit, you are such a boss. What a mic drop. And so that's what this is, right? This is Mat saying, oh, poor me. I just have a few people and just a few weapons. And wouldn't it be a shame if I actually had triple the hitting power that you think I do per soldier? Wouldn't that be unfortunate for you?
Yeah, because Missandei is like, I hear you have 30,000 troops. That's the only way you would be able to put out the volume of crossbow bolts that you have put out. Where are they? This is the time to use them. And Mat's like, I got enough. I don't need I don't need 30,000.
Right. And then Missandei sees everyone firing 3 bolts for every one that he anticipated and is like, I can do math.
Yeah. Oh, you only had 10,000. Yeah.
Right. And the other part of this, too, is not just that Mat has really strong firepower. It's that he looks incredibly vulnerable, right? That's the other half of this, is that he has positioned himself to look like a poorly defended Tuon caravan. That's what he set himself up to look like, is like way too few people to protect the package.
Right.
Like, this is a big part of how he gets them to rush, is by looking way more helpless than he is and like lying to them in all these like complicated ways, such that, like, you know, Tuon is a day away, right? Like, he says he only has to give her a day or two of head start on whatever he doesn't kill, and obviously he kills everyone, so that's moot. But like,
yeah, right.
he gets them running too fast to stop, basically, by looking really helpless. And then it's like one of those. It's like the call an ambulance, but not for me.
Right.
It's that.
Yeah. it's the vampire following Buffy into an alley, right? Like,
very, very. It's like, you're way too small and delicate to be. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. Overwhelming force crap. And so he sets it up. It's essentially a 2-mile killing field, right? And it's bordered on all 4 sides. So, you know, to the north is a swamp. To the west is a lake, right? Neither of which are passable. The rest of it's surrounded by a river that, you know, horses are going to have to swim. So,
right. Not easily forded. You can do it, but not in the middle of a battle.
Right. And then they build the wall appears unfinished, but it is there to slow them down and stop them. Like, it works effectively as a partial wall, right?
Yeah, I mean, it adds to the topographic difficulty.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't slow them down much, but it's not nothing for sure. And also the other part of this is that he has Talmanes stashed on the other side of the field, right? The one side that like has forest.
Right.
He has a bunch of Talmanes' people stashed over there, so that way they literally crush this army between the two of them. So like he doesn't even he's literally like has half his forces not visible. It's
right.
Like, I'm so helpless. Oh no.
No, and I think that they create as much confusion as anything else, right? Not only is that force behind them crushing them, but then you have a bunch of people who are charging forward all of a sudden stop to charge backwards. Right?
Right.
But only half of them, right? And then some people stop to pull out bows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then just totally creates what was a cohesive charge into just a chaotic mess of soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing psychological warfare on top of, like, physiological warfare, right? He's very good commander. I mean, we even see in the opening paragraph, he's just casually Sun Tzuing over this, like, well, clearly you want to make the enemy come to you at a time of your choosing. Right. Obviously, that's the way to do it. Like, he's not even quoting anyone at that point, but I'm like, I see the Sun Tzu. I see it. Right. I see it, because that's just who Matt is.
And we get a count of his casualties, right? He's lost nearly 1,000 people, like 400 crossbowmen and 500 cavalry, right? That is that's a lot, but like the number of people he's taken down, like 100,000 maybe?
It's not that, but it was enough to get the whole ass army moved, so clearly there's a lot of zeros. I don't think it's 100,000 though. I don't remember. I'm bad with numbers.
I mean, the idea that Masanj thinks he has 30,000 troops means he has to put out that many arrows, and the fact that he's done it in multiple times means like multiple 30,000 in quote troop attacks comes to, or maybe it's just all the small attacks happening in all the various places. But still, it feels like they're doing. They've killed tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, I think that's more like what it is he's lost almost 1,000 in exchange for like maybe 12,000, right? Like a really incredible rate, but not 100.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that rate was, right? Like how many people
I'm guessing it's like in the 1 to 10 at most, like as many as that, because he's being very effective, but not 1 to 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looking at the numbers, man, it is the one thing that I feel like the armies got smaller in the last battle. Just the number of troops we're talking about in these battles in the various places where Matt and Perrin and Rand are fighting, and then you get much smaller groups end up in the last battle, and I'm like, what happened to all the armies?
I feel like they were escalating in size at an unsustainable pace for the total population of the continent. And they kept dying, right? Yeah. Like the armies kept beating each other to death. So like, we're not talking a generations long story. We can't be replacing the normal way.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, also like everybody's joining the army, right? Like in the last book, everybody joins the army, right? Every farmer picks up a sickle and makes it a spear. Every single person is marching north, right? The only way to eat is to join an army.
Right. Yeah, no, it's one of those things my eyes just glaze over when the military the numbers come up. I'm just fair. Like, whatever the author wants me to believe, I will believe. Yeah. Like, whatever.
It does feel a little pedantic, but there was some times where I think the battle could have been more epic in terms of having, like, he puts it all on one field, right? The field of Marilor. And it just doesn't necessarily feel big enough to contain that battle.
It's multiple battlefronts. There's the thing with Elaine. That's not the fields of Marilor. She's like back in Andor fighting for Camelin.
Well, because remember, there's the 4 battles that are with the great generals that are all then lost, and everybody comes back together for the one final battle at the fields of Marilor under Matt.
Yeah, I don't know. Numbers and spatial references, I'm just content to let the author lead me around by the nose.
Fair
and
enough.
Not look.
Fair enough. I'll try and do some research. But yeah, I agree. It's like, it's just one of those things. One of the many complaints I'm like, oh, Sanderson.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is one of the reasons why I'm really jazzed that I got that book of Michael Livingston's in the raffle at WotCon, is because I'm hoping that he will be able to walk me through at least one battlefield in a way that like makes it make sense, because I'm not generally good with that sort of thing. I'm fascinated by military history, but I'm horrible at comprehending it. And I'm really hoping that if I ever get around to reading that book, that Michael Livingston will be able to like help with that. And then I can watch the panel from this last WotCon where he talked about the last battle. Which I haven't watched any of the panels because I'm a bad fan. I'm actually a fake fan, so not a real fan. I just pretend.
Well, one of the things about there's very few actual battles in Wheel of Time. This is one of the reasons I'm very fascinated with this one, is we're actually getting into, like, before Brandon took over, right? Jordan wrote very few battles. Like, he wrote a lot of fights between Rand and a Forsaken, but those weren't battles. Right. A lot of times you're seeing the battle, Rand comes back and goes, oh, is the battle over? Okay, great. Or the battle was won by some great, wave of rolling earth and...
Rolling ring of earth and fire.
Well, you're right, yeah. Like, they're not necessarily battles, but they're fights between people with one power, right?
Yeah. Following the blow-by-blow of a military encounter is, it's hard. Though, I mean, there is one channel on YouTube that I follow, weirdly through this community, because they liked our channel.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, Kings and Generals.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with Wheel of Time. Well, they do a lot of fantasy stuff, though. They actually will do fantasy battles, from like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like, they'll treat it with the same intensity as they treat actual historical battles. It's very cool. They have started to get my brain a little bit able to comprehend battles because they do like little blocks moving across maps, and like it's very cool. But still, yes, you're right. This is a really fun amount of detail from Jordan to try to apply that thinking to.
Yeah, it's rare that he goes into this much detail about the battles themselves.
Yeah, I think he really wanted to show Matt being smart. And what's interesting too about that, he gives the command to Mandevwin. He literally sits back and does nothing the whole fight. He does not fight. He does not call out commands. He does not change strategies. He literally just like sits back and watches everyone do their thing and is just sitting in his captain chair watching all the screens.
But he set it up ahead of time.
No, absolutely. It's amazing. Like, he has graduated to that level of generalship where he's like, not only am I not swinging a sword in the mud on the front lines, I'm not even making the calls for when the arrows get loose. Like, I have delegated every single thing, and I am simply here to respond if nothing goes according to plan. And like, he just watches, and it's like, on the one hand, I'm like, how dare you not do something? On the other hand, I'm like, holy shit, you did so much ahead of time that you have nothing to do during the fight. That's kind of incredible.
The ultimate wedding planner. Having just gotten married, wedding and battles for some reason, right together there in my head.
Matt would agree.
And Matt would agree, yeah. And so, yeah, the idea that like you can plan a wedding or any engagement enough ahead of time that you don't have to do anything in the moment because everyone knows the role ahead of time and executes on it perfectly is, seems ridiculous and like a dream. But he does it.
Yeah.
Without armor on, by the way.
I genuinely would have added a breastplate if I was going to sit like that in the middle of the thing, but that's just me.
And with a quote, "A general who draws his sword has put aside his baton and become the common soldier." Okay, but we're not talking about swords. We're talking about armor. Like, put on a helmet.
Yeah.
Put on a helmet.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And I get maybe there's some sense of immortality because you can be healed, but Matt doesn't like being healed, so...
No, it's his sense of immortality because he's lucky.
Plot armor.
Yeah, he's pulling in a lane here and being like, but my luck.
Yep. As Vuji said, he's got plot armor. Physical armor would just be a bother to lug about.
That is so accurate.
And he knows he's got plot armor. He's got his luck, right?
Yeah, exactly. Did you notice the part where he's talking about the feeling of being married and how it feels like it should be different? But I don't feel different.
Definitely
and it's like,
highlighted
as
that.
a recently married man, like, you can confirm. I mean, I've been married for a long time, but I can also confirm. Yeah.
People keep asking me, like, what's it like being married now? I'm like, the ring on my finger is a little different. I don't like, we're living our same lives, right? Like, we go to work, we love each other, we live together. Nothing really changed about that, right?
We're done planning a wedding. We're not planning a wedding anymore. That's how it feels to be married. Which is
very nice. Yeah, that is actually
like, that's
nice.
like the biggest feeling, right? Is like, I'm no longer anticipating
a big event,
the big gathering and the socializing and all of the. That's the biggest difference, is that is now no longer dominating your life. And Matt didn't even have that, so it's extra. Like, yeah, no, Matt, nothing would change aside. Well, no, what Matt had was the dice and the lingering dread of when is she going to say it. That's the only thing that's different for him. Is now he knows. Now he doesn't have to wonder because it happened. Although
I feel like the dice is probably kind of an accurate, like, this rattling in my head for months before the wedding seemed pretty accurate.
Yeah, that does actually sound like a good analogy for just the constant anxiety of wedding planning. Just the rattle of dice.
Mm-hmm. No, Vuji says, big response is sharing Steam libraries felt like a bigger change. Yeah. I think our biggest change is we merged our photo libraries. Because we both have Apple, and we did a shared family photo library. And all of a sudden, I have years of photos on my phone that I didn't take.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a real big change.
And we're doing that, and like, there's a couple of other things we merged together. Still working on the name change.
Yeah, the name change I'd say would be the most practical, but like, yeah. But yeah, it's funny how much marriage does and doesn't feel different.
Mm-mm. If anything, I think what we talked about the most is just the feeling of safety. It's like we have committed, and that gives the other person this feeling of relief and ease. which Matt doesn't have because he has a very different relationship with Tuon.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, now we can relax with each other. It's like, now she can make me Daco Vale if she wants to, right? Like,
right, yeah, that's one of his lines, is like, he's not going to go anywhere where she has the upper hand with her talk of cupbearers. Yeah, there's no security in that. Yeah, I'm married and I'm like, yes, this person will like look out for me and take care of me and make sure that I like don't die. Matt's like, I might get enslaved or killed. That is very different. And then they make jokes in the Sanderson books about how it's going to keep their relationship interesting, because she's like, I am technically pregnant, so now I can kill you. And I'm like, girl, have you heard of the miscarriage rate? But like 1 in 6, woman, get it together. But it's a weird thing where it's like, ooh, yes, we're going to have like violent tension, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith in our relationship. I'm just like, that's not the kind of marriage I would want to be in. I like that, comfort feeling of having a partner rather than a adversary. Like being married to a praying mantis. Yeah, basically not comforting.
So Demandred shows up with 2 Ogier. I'm sorry, Vannon. Sorry, Vannon. Which are, of course, those were the ones that he borrowed from Furyk Karede to mislead these people. And so you're like, I need some of your Death Watch guard. And that's who these people are. Yeah,
specifically the Ogier, because they can run as fast as a horse and are indubitably the target.
And, of course, Vannon's with them, which is just like, Again, there's no way a horse could run that fast with Vannon's bulk if it was real. He has to be a man in a Mask of Mirrors.
Yeah, it couldn't be that he's just really good at picking his horse.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. And irrefutable evidence right there.
Tight.
I refuse. But Vannon is being cool in his own right? He's just a badass, is what it boils down to.
Yeah, he's the understated badass character. And he takes care of animals. He's a good guy because he takes care of animals. He gets there with the important information, and he has Matt come to him to get the information, because the more important thing is to walk his horse, to cool it down.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, critical military information. Come over here and receive it while I take care of my steed.
Horse. Yeah. It is the amount of horses that do die in this charge are tragic.
The poor horses.
Yeah, the poor horses get fucking brutalized, because just especially with the explosives, right? Because they're just creating shrapnel with the explosives. Aludra, she very quickly figured out how to which, like, the most dangerous modern bombs are IUDs that are wrapped in
IEDs. Yeah.
IEDs. Sorry, did I say IUD?
You did. The most dangerous thing in society is the IUD. But I knew what you meant.
Oh God, I want to make a bad joke about both.
No!
No, God. Oh, man. I am fully in support of those. IEDs, on the other hand, can be wrapped in metal and extremely deadly that way, because you create shrapnel more so than the explosive force.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is like anything that's hard and moving fast is dangerous. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you wrap like gravel around a firework. Yeah, you've created a problem for a lot of people. And it doesn't matter where they explode, like at head height, on the ground, overhead. Like, it doesn't really matter, because that grape shot is going out in a circle, in a sphere around that explosion.
Although in the air is going to be much more deadly than on the ground, because on the ground, half of that explosion is going into the dirt.
Yes, for sure. But it's handy for the slingmen that they don't have to have the timing perfect, Mm-hmm. Like, just sling them out there wherever they fall. Wherever they explode in that trajectory, it will be effective. And it's terrifying. Yeah, like these horses, first of all, like, I just have issues with the concept of horses in warfare. That just seems really rude. Like, I understand you can turn them into tanks, but like, good Lord, it's just really, like, the concept of horses in war just bothers me. But then, yeah, the first time that a horse experiences gunpowder in warfare, like, that's a battle for the history books of cavalry, right? Like, horses have to be trained to be okay with explosions. That's not a thing horses are naturally chill about.
Right. Yeah, they don't really talk about how the horses must be going absolutely freaking nuts with these explosions happening and how much that would disrupt the charge.
So much. I mean, I've got people crashing into each other on their own side, yeah, absolute chaos.
So Matt's kind of hoping, like, hey, they rode their horses too hard. Maybe they'll see, like, they're tired, it's time to go home, and that would be fine. Because if their horses are foundered, then I won't have to kill them, or their horses, and they can't catch up with Tuon. Mission accomplished, we can all go home. Battle avoided. That's not what happens.
Yeah, all he wants is enough lead time for Tuon to get away. He's like, I don't need to kill you. Don't make me kill you. He's basically sets up a don't make me kill you situation, and they make him kill them.
Yeah, they do. Oh, by the way, Vannon dread evidence. Others might go around calling him Lord and Highness, but not Shale Vannon. Who else doesn't call people Lord and Ladies? Who else will not bend a knee? It's Forsaken.
Yep.
He makes a fucking point of it. It's watertight.
Watertight.
That is one of the clues that Forsaken refused to bow down and, like, submit themselves when in disguise.
Yeah, we're going to ignore the part where he had a weird soft spot for Elaine and would call Elaine my lady. We're just going to ignore that because that is not watertight, so we're going to throw it out. That's how science works.
That's just Damandred compelling people to think he, like, loves Elaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's compulsion.
Thing he would do.
Totally. And being kind of, I mean, Damandred's, I mean, we see Damandred later, right? He's not a terrible person. He would kill animals for war, but he cares about animals. He would see them as a valuable asset.
If any of the Forsaken were going to be kind to animals,
it would be Damandred.
Yeah. Yeah, if you ask me which of them is the least likely to kick a puppy, Damandred, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
He wouldn't see the need for it.
Yeah.
Unless it was Lewis Theron's puppy. Then he would kick the shit out of it.
Well, but that's not kicking a puppy. That's hurting Lewis Theron. It's different. God, what a stupid distinction. I hate myself.
And, don't at me. I obviously know Shale Vannon's not Damandred. It's just a funny joke that keeps having more good evidence.
Yes, Ethel, I do think Asmodean would be the next most likely to not hurt animals, because as long as the animals aren't actively interrupting his concert, he doesn't care.
Right, animals can't sing. He can't be jealous of animals.
Exactly. He can't be in competition with animals.
Although I can see him going, like, songbird hunting.
Yeah, because he's angry he can't whistle that good. Yeah, trophy songbird hunting.
Fuck you. Yeah. Take down the birds. And they also have their pretty decorative feathers, their little gleaming cloaks. Yeah, has to be the best dressed peacock in this place. Yes, Asmodean would totally feast on Ortolan, or however you say that. The dish that was in the show with the bird. Like yeah, eat the bones and everything.
Asmodean would eat that.
Yeah.
Asmodean would definitely eat that. Anyway.
So ever since I found Egwene and her stool was sort of an analogy for the Amyrlin seat with the folding, like, leg, right? I always look at, like, what are people sitting on? Because I feel like Jordan likes to make analogies about the person based on what they're sitting on. So Jolene's horse, her dark bay gelding, looked a war horse, but was not. The animal had a good turn of speed, yet its temperament was mild as milk water. And I'm thinking Jolene the Green, who's not actually, looks like a war horse, but still pretty mild-mannered.
I mean, she's not mild-mannered, but yeah, she's way less effective in battle than that's sort of herself.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is this portrays herself as this war horse, but really not particularly effective as a green.
Yeah, she's much more on the fucking and partying side than on the war side.
Yeah, she likes the fuck boys, not necessarily the fight boys.
Yes, she does not like the fight boys. Although she does have fight boys because, of course,
right.
Her fighty boys are very fighty boys.
Oh, I read that and I was like, that kind of does apply to Jolene as well, just a little bit.
No, and it's particularly with horses. Like, Robert Jordan definitely makes it a point to tell you something about the rider when it comes to horses. When he puts a lot of description into a horse's temperament or like how it doesn't fit this or that criteria that Matt would like, especially when we're in Matt's POV. It's like Matt judges women by their boobs and he judges people by their horses.
Right.
Right? Like, and we see like with Elaine being like, oh, this horse gives me the ick. I don't want to ride it anymore. Like, obviously it's not every time there's a person on a horse, but Robert Jordan tends to like to communicate something about the person by his choice of horse description.
I mean, Suon and Bella, right? Like, mild-tempered horse, right? She needs,
Right. I mean, the Razor was a whole thing. Like, oh, like the temperament of this unique, interesting horse goes with this unique, interesting Tuon person, right? Like, so yes, I definitely think that the looks like a war horse, but absolutely sucks at war is definitely a double meaning for the rider as well. Although, in fairness, she does blast as good as any of the other Aes Sedai here. It's just that they're all kind of pathetic on the war front.
Right. That's just like, we talk about the Green Ajah being pretty pathetic when it comes to like being effectiveness in battle. Like, they should be on the board fighting.
Right. I mean, Teslin as a red does as well, which we, we'll learn subsequently from Pavara later. Like, yeah, that makes sense. The Reds actually do train for fighting in a way that you'd think the Greens would have been doing, but apparently only the Reds do that.
The Reds, but see, I feel like the Greens train like fighting Trollocs, whereas the Reds train for fighting other channelers.
Yeah, but I feel like fighting other channelers would be part of what a Green should do too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because they're supposed to be on the edge for to fight the Dreadlords. That's what they're...
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Greens and the Reds should have a pretty intense training program between the two of them where they like work out techniques in the Ajah and then share them across the Ajahs because they specifically have that intersection. If I was in charge.
See, this is where how much of that is the Black Ajah and how much of it is just fucking bureaucracy creating ineffective institutions.
Yeah. There's no way that the Black Ajah can take more than half the credit for that.
Right.
There's no way. There's just no way.
Yeah. So there's a lot of there's some of that stuff between the Suldam and Damani and the Aes Sedai, and Teslin doesn't think it's worth training the Suldam, whereas Jolene is trying to do it, right?
Well, specifically for the battle, right? Like Teslin doesn't think that bringing the Suldam to the battle and then expecting them not to participate is reasonable. She's like, oh, wow, Jolene, you're going to bring your pet insane people to this battle and expect them to behave. That's going to go great. Like, that's kind of her attitude because Jolene says, as de facto novices, you are not allowed to participate in the battle, even though you are trained users of war magic. You don't get to participate because my weird hierarchical Aes Sedai idea of how this should go. And Teslin's like, you really think they're going to respect that? You really think that that's going to work? And it does, because for some fucking reason, like every other woman in the world who can channel, the Suldam have decided that all they want in the world is to be a good little Aes Sedai. And so they obey Jolene and just stand there and watch the battle. I don't know why they're there.
Yeah. At least link with them. Use their fucking strength. Right?
Exactly. Like, I don't understand why you'd have them there but not use them. It's very weird. They also have a moment where Matt reflects on how only Jolene was surprised that the captured Aes Sedai left willingly with Tuon. They have that other interaction where like the other two, having been collared recently, like very much understand why she's still brainwashed and why she's into it. Only Jolene is like, how could she? Well, if I was in her position, I would just say no. Blah, blah, blah. Again, showing the disconnect between Jolene and like objective reality and other people's experience and believing she might possibly not be right about everything.
Yeah, because Jolene was never collared. She was the only one who got away without being collared, even though she... Yep. And all due to Matt. Yeah, oh, yeah, and I love that she's like, you owe us. And it's like, man, he rescued you from the Sean Chan.
Oh my God.
Him. You owe him.
Yeah, no, at the end when she's like, well, since I fought your battle for you, now you have to become my warder. It's like, bitch, please.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely not. Like... You owe Matt so much. You owe him more than you could ever fucking repay. This one little battle does not reverse that dynamic.
And so there are 10,000 people coming at Matt, right? Like this one battle, he kills 10,000.
That's a lot of people to kill in what, like 30 minutes? Or
if
whatever?
That, it doesn't seem like it takes even that long. It's how long does it take to charge? How long does it take horses to charge across 2 miles?
Less than 30 minutes.
Less than 30 minutes. Yeah. So this is, you got what, maybe, how many people did he see? He's got like 5,000 people in the square and maybe another 4,000 people with Talmanis. Is that what the numbers?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't know what the numbers were, but I want to say, it was roughly 50-50.
So this looks like about an equal number of battles. It looks like about 10,000 versus 10,000.
Really?
That's what I'm thinking, right? Because he's talking. There's 10,000 people charging, and he describes later when.
Right, and he loses very few people, and is like, yeah, clearly I win, even though it should have been like a knockout head-to-head fight.
So yeah, he seemed very calm for a man with 10,000 lances coming towards him. He rolls out the banner. They attack. They don't, check. They're just like, oh, looks like half our number that we came upon. Surprised, we'll be able to do a charge. They're just stuck where they are. Clearly, this is an easy battle for us. So the bad guys are they got people who want to just charge in without a second thought. They don't look in the forest. They don't check to see whether their powers are going on. None of them looked behind to see Talmanis leading 3 banners of horse out of the forest below the lake.
Yeah, that was a bad call. That was bad strategy. And also, Matt unfurls the banner to let them know who's killing them.
Yeah, I love that.
The banner
line.
of the red hand. Doviavis et dovias again. Fuck you, motherfuckers.
Yeah. It's time to roll the dice. I love it. Yeah. And then we get the battle, which is essentially, I mean, you got 4 ranks. Front.
3.
3. Second rank loose. Third rank loose. Front rank. Okay. So
So 3 ranks.
3 ranks.
Of crossbows spaced with slingmen throwing grenades.
Right. And each rank has about 1,000 so each time they fire, they're firing about 1,000 crossbow bolts.
And they're firing a full cycle in like an 12-second loop, I think.
Something
it's
like that.
4 seconds per
shot.
They give us a thing at one point where they're counting it out.
They're counting. And if I remember, it's every 4 beats you get a shot. So it's every 12 you get the full, every 12 beats you reload and shoot. Because you have 3 ranks, you're getting 3 times as many shots. So you end up with,
Yeah, so that's 3,000 bolts in 12 seconds. How are you winning that? That is a rain of death.
Right. Not to mention you have another 4,000 people behind you with horsebow bolts firing into your rear.
Yeah. Yeah, Talmanis' people are coming up with, less speed and accuracy on the firing rate, but, like, they're much closer, and they're firing at your back.
And there's another there's 4,000 of them, right? So, like...
Yeah, so now we're talking 16,000 sometimes within, like, a 10-second period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then you add in grenades.
Yeah.
And then you add in magic fireballs.
Yep.
And for some reason, none of that is enough to make a single one of the men turn. Every last one of them keeps coming until they're all dead. Like, it's wild.
Talmanis to come in range now, announcing himself with a volley from 4,000 bows at 300 paces that cleared saddles. So 4,000 shots at once. Closing the distance, they fired again. So that's 4,000.
Another 12,000.
That's 12,000 shots. There's only 10,000 men.
Yeah, you don't need every one of those bolts to find its target in order to have that be a devastatingly effective strategy.
The enemy ranks seemed to ripple with shock. Some men whirled about and charged Talmanis, so some men stopping, whirling about, going rear, which means they're encountering their own troops, right? Others began returning a hail of arrows with their own, which means they're stopping. Most continue on, but like you have this group that peel off the back, right? So you have this sort of splintering of the forces, not to mention they're killing a bunch of them. Right before they get attacked, they fall back into a hollow box with pikes, right?
Yeah, as it starts to get close to hand time, they switch from line formation to box formation. And like, and this is where we've got the like, are you in danger yet? Are you in danger yet?
Right,
like Matt
right.
feels in danger, and Julian's like, I don't feel in danger. Let me check my nails.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
and it's like you are literally in a box, surrounded on all sides by charging lances, firing arrows at you with no escape. How do you not feel in danger yet?
Yeah, she waits until that box is well and truly under siege before she feels in danger.
Which is just, no, as soon as they're charging at me from across the thing with lances lowered and firing arrows at me, I'm in danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, I get the whole, like, wait for it. Like, I get that. But, like, Matt says you could join in any time. Like, strategically, like, that's the one thing Matt does. That's the one thing Matt does in this whole battle is be like, magic ladies, what are you waiting for?
And then we get the whole paragraph about how there's like 3 really close misses to Matt. He's like, maybe I should wear armor. It's like, you think? Like,
yeah. Like, remember that prophecy about half the light of the world? You're not sure how that's going to get fulfilled. It could be right now, ding dong.
Yeah. An arrow tugged at Matt's sleeve, another pierced his right sleeve, only the fletchings keeping it going through cleanly, and a third ripped open the right shoulder of his coat. So 2 sleeves and a shoulder. Right? Like he's being fucking boxed in by arrows, right? Like the idea that one of those wasn't slightly to the left or the right and would go through a shoulder or a chest or an eye. Like, just crazy to me. Crazy.
This is the power of plot armor.
And then the Aes Sedai began hurling fireballs as fast as they could swing their arms. That reliance of Aes Sedai on moving their arms to throw fireballs that we see.
I mean, it's good for your shoulder, rotator cuffs for that range of motion, but yeah, you don't have to throw your arms.
No. And also fireballs, I mean, I love it from a D&D perspective, but honestly, fireball's not the most effective use of power.
No,
More efficient.
I'd be riffing off of what Eludra's doing and being like, how do I make little like points of earth that maybe are also heated up? Like, what if you made little lava bombs and just shot those through the crowd? Like,
right.
Yeah, the balls of fire are it's very early D&D. Like, it's cute, but like, come on, be innovative.
And we know why I said I use it, because they don't do any fucking training. It's like getting the wand out of somebody's hand in Harry Potter, right? It's like, okay, I've got one spell and I'm going to use the fuck out of it. And it's all I ever need for combat.
Yeah, it's not good strategy.
No.
It's not good strategy.
On the other hand, it's better strategy than running face first into a fistful of fireballs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a fireball is effective if crude.
Right. It's just, it's crude.
Yeah, there's such cooler, flashier shit you could be doing.
Another wall began to rise, made of dead and dying men and horses. A wall that some tried to ride over. Like, what? No. I mean, I get it. There's an army behind you, an army in front of you, right? What do you maintain the charge, wipe out those in front of you, and then maybe you can turn around and wipe out the people behind you. But still.
Yeah, no, this is always one of the more like viscerally horrifying little sections is the wall of dead with people crawling over it and trying to get in. Like, it's less horrifying when it's Trollocs. We get descriptions of this with Trollocs in the Battle of the Two Rivers. It's more like, okay, they're just bestial hordes, whatever. But men and horses is just like, oh.
And these aren't even Shanchan. These are all Tarans. These are locals. These are people who...
Yeah, these are local levies.
These are local people. There's no actual Shanchan.
Mercenary companies, some of them might be professional soldiers, but still none of them are Well, one of them is Shanchan. Literally one is Shanchan. And that like some of the people are like, suffocating to death in the pile rather than dying and just being part of the pile. And it's just like... It's real visceral, and like I'm absolutely sure that this is a thing that has happened in like every war ever with enough people to like make that possible. Like, I'm sure this is a thing that's happened in the real world, but it's one of the most visceral things in this book. So it's just like, oh.
The real difference between, I feel like, Perrin and Matt is that I feel like Perrin would try and find some way to recruit these people and break them away from the Shanchan.
Perrin would. Perrin fucking would.
He'd be like, I need you to not hunt Tuon, so you're going to join me instead. Or I could wipe you out. Your choice.
Yeah. Yeah, Perrin would definitely try to convince them to just join up instead.
But with like a ridiculous, overwhelming show of force, right? With the channeling and all that kind of stuff. He'd be like
what he does to the White Cloaks later?
Yeah, basically. That's sort of what I'm thinking, is that. Because that's Perrin's whole thing. Matt recruits people because people want to join the winning side. People join Perrin because it's better than being his enemy.
Yeah. Well, and because Perrin will follow through on his threat, too.
And his promises.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Perrin's follow through is not to be questioned. Like, he will annihilate you if that is the threat. Like, there is no, like, I will try to annihilate you. Like, he will annihilate you.
So in this sort of preview of the last battle, right, there's walls of dead, and Matt has a few people with, like, arrows in their arms, basically. A couple died with arrows to the throat, but I don't think he lost that many.
No, he lost a handful. It's not bad.
And this is where we get, you owe us a debt, Matt. I said I do not become involved in private wars, which is rule. I shall have to think on how you can pay.
Yeah, yeah. She's really trying to get him to be a warder, and he's like...
Is that what you think it is?
Oh, yeah, because he says Matt had a pretty good idea of what she would come up with. She was mad herself if she thought he would agree.
Yeah, that went right over my head.
She's tried to get him to be a warder before. Like, we've seen it more explicitly. And it's like, this is definitely her pushing that argument again, even though, no. Stop. The man said no. No means no, Jolene.
Jolene. Tuon saying, please don't take my man.
Yeah, except that it's more like, don't take my man because I will collar you. So then we get a lovely, lovely warlike Ogier moment where Hartha says, I want to find the traitor, and just walks over the wall of dead people like it means nothing at all.
Do I assume find the already dead traitor?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's right. What he means. He's like, I want to see if I can pick through this however many pieces of these 10,000 men are littered across this field and see if I can find the one man I recognize.
And he does. He comes back with his head. Yeah, and that's Zared Elbar, right? He's Suroth's right-hand man. Well, in the epilogue, his head gets delivered to Suroth.
Yeah, we first meet him in the Great Hunt.
Yeah, oh, wow.
He's the guy, he's there for the capture of the girls when they come through the Waygate. Mm-hmm. He's the head honcho, fuckhead.
Min slashes his hand, allowing Elaine to escape. Yeah, so that's the one where, good job, Min.
And he wants to kill her. Like, he's there from the get-go. He is introduced with Suroth. Him and Suroth are literally a couple in terms of the arc that they've followed through the books.
He brings Morghese to the High Lady Suroth when they take Amador. So he's there at the taking down of the White Cloak's palace. But those are the only two mentions of him before this moment. So, like, he's introduced early, but he is not a highly used character.
No, but Suroth references him in such a way that, like, he's been there for her for years, right? Like, right. He is part of the backdrop in which Suroth exists. And she trusts him to do anything. And so, when we get to the epilogue and she's like, oh, he wouldn't fail me in her head. And then immediately is like, oh, he definitely was working for someone else. Like, throws him under the bus instantly. Like, that it's garbage because, like, you've seen him with her since book 2, And
he's definitely a dark friend, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He doesn't have so little backstory to be a good guy.
No, because Suroth thinks about, like, oh, I need him to help me find a dark friend in the Suldam. So, like, obviously, if he's looking for a dark friend for her, he's also a dark friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No. And he's cruel. So,
I love Musange talking to Jolene. He's like, don't ask him for a favor. It was clearly the crossbow bolts. You did something. Don't get me wrong. But, like, those fire bolts at the end, not what won the battle. Not what won the day.
Yeah, no. Which, like, he's completely right. Like, he might be being, mean and derogatory because Maroth Damani, blah, blah, blah. But, like, he's completely correct from a military standpoint. Like, you put the icing on the cake and helped lower the casualties on our side. You didn't change the battle.
But the 50 people throwing grenades did probably just as much, if not more damage than the Aes Sedai throwing fireballs.
Yeah. All the Aes Sedai did was bring the battle to a faster end with lower casualties on Matt's side, which is good.
Which is good, yeah. No, great.
No one's complaining about that, but, like, don't be trying to take all the credit. Like, get out of here.
This is where Musange realizes that Matt never had more than that, and sort of has that moment of, like, oh my god, that's all you did, all that with only this? Oh, wow.
Right. And Matt is still being cagey with his information and his resources. And it's like, what other tricks does this guy have up his sleeve? Like, that's very much the air Matt is projecting. It's like, when I say I have enough, don't think that you will understand the answer. Like, And
I guess that gives us to the readout.
Which is a very fun Matt moment of a readout.
By the time an opening could be cleared so that Matt and the others could ride through, Haratha and the gardeners had returned. I found the traitor, Haratha said, holding up a severed head by its hair. Musange's eyebrows climbed at the sight of that dark, hook-nosed face. She will be very interested to see this, he said softly as the sound of a sword being drawn is soft. We must carry it to her. You know him? Matt asked. We know him, Highness. Musange's face suddenly seemed carved from stone, said he would say no more on the subject. Look, would you stop calling me that? My name is Matt. After today, I'd say you have a right to use it. Matt surprised himself by sticking out his hand. The stone mask crumpled in astonishment. I could not do that, Highness, he said in scandalized tones. When she married you, you became the Prince of Ravens. To speak your name would lower my eyes forever. Matt took off his hat and scrubbed fingers through his hair. He told everyone who would listen that he did not like nobles, did not want to be one, and he had meant it. He still meant it, and now he bloody was one. He did the only thing he could. He laughed until his sides ached.
I just love it so much.
The last bit of math that Robert Jordan writes is him being stuck as a noble. I don't want to be a bloody noble, and you are one, Matt.
Matt, I'm not a bloody noble Cawthon, is now married to the Empress.
Right? Like, probably one of the most powerful people in Randland at this point, right? Behind
Rand,
right?
Yeah.
And maybe the White Tower, maybe...
Once it's reunified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the Black Tower. Like, there's a handful of people who are who I would consider more powerful than Tuon.
The Queen of Andor. Comparable. Once she gets her shit together.
Yeah, but I'd almost say that that's more just she's on Rand's side. She's not really a part of Rand. Apart from Rand. She's a part of Rand.
Oh. Yeah.
She's commanding his forces, but she's commanding Rand's forces in the last battle.
I'm even just thinking the Andorran army is nothing to sneeze at.
Well, honestly...
It wasn't anything to sneeze at, and they'll get back to it, but yeah.
Until they get the cannons, they're really not... They're just soldiers. They don't have any channelers. They don't have... Like, she's got maybe the kin you could call hers, but they're not fighters.
Oh, but yeah, but they're not in a military sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and once the Black Tower stops being run by a Forsaken and, like, is just a proper Black Tower, then she'll have the Black Tower being like, no, I mean, like, obviously Andor's interests are, like, the most... important. Right.
And she's definitely like going into this moment where she's going to have the Black Tower, the kin, some sea folk on her side, right? Like she's got all of these groups of channelers to help her out.
But yeah, no, I see what you mean. Like at this point, yeah, the White Tower is fractured and doesn't have a good army. I mean, it has two armies that will come together. But yeah, if you just sort of amass everyone behind Rand, they're like comparable to Shan-Shan, and now Matt is kind of in charge of Shan-Shan. So yeah, Perrin is not even close to in their league with his little army. I mean, he's got a big army, but there's no nation to it. They're all on the move. Like Perrin's just running around with a bunch of refugees. He's not anywhere on the level that Rand and now Matt are.
Yeah.
Like Matt is, he's now half owner of a continent, and so is Rand. Well, Rand's a full owner of most of a continent. So yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the end of that. I think we are, well, we've only been going for an hour.
We've only been going for an hour.
When we only do an hour on a chapter, we usually try and do 2.
Usually.
Do we want to try and do the epilogue today?
I got my notes ready. I'm down.
All right. I need a break. I'm gonna make a cup of tea.
Okay.
But I'm feeling good. I'm enjoying this. That was a fun battle scene, and I think that there's like lots going on in the next, and like I really do feel like the next bit with Suroth completes this scene.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
Maybe we get through the Suroth POV. What if we maybe put off the final POV till next week?
Nah.
Okay. All right, then let me take a break. I'll be back.
Okay.
All right. Epilogue. Remember the old saying. And the symbol is the Mickey Mouse ears. Or the snake in the wheel.
Yeah, because it's the epilogue.
It's the epilogue, right? I mean, it's the wheel has turned. That's what that always says. Usually it's very prominent for the wheel. And remember the old saying is, of course, let the Lord of Chaos rule, which is not an old saying. But anyway.
Well, I mean, it's been a couple of years since the last book with that and it was published, so,
that was Lord of Chaos, regard.
Yeah, so...
But it just tells you how little time has passed between the end of Lord of Chaos and this book in World. It's only been a couple months.
Yeah. And yeah, it's also a good symbol for this chapter because we have some good conclusions, right? Suroth's bid for Tuon's position has been going for a long time, and this is the final end of that. We will never hear from Suroth again. She's done. This is as good as killing her in terms of plot development.
Once you go Vale, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
And she's like, and this is since, Great Hunt, right? She was a OG bad guy that we're getting rid of here.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of our first mini bosses that we've ever introduced into the plot, and this is her end. It's a good time to have the snake in the wheel. Yeah, I'll read us in. The red-walled room, its ceiling painted fancifully with birds and fish cavorting among clouds and waves, bustled with brown-clad clerks scurrying along the aisles between the long tables that covered the floor. None seemed to be trying to listen. Most seemed stunned, with cause. But Suroth disliked their presence. They had to overhear some of what was being said, and it was potentially dire news. Galgan had insisted, though. They needed to work to keep their minds off the disastrous news from home, and they were all trusted men and women. He insisted. At least the white-haired old man was not dressed as a soldier this morning. His voluminous blue trousers and short, high-collared red coat with rows of gold buttons embossed with his sigil were the height of Shandar fashion, which meant the height of fashion for the Empire. When he wore armor, or even just his red uniform, he sometimes looked at her as if she were a soldier under his command. Well, once Elbar brought word that Tuon was dead, she could have Galgan killed. His cheeks were smeared with ashes, as were hers. The ship Semirog had promised had brought word of the Empress's death, and the Empire was racked by rebellion in every quarter. There was no Empress, no daughter of the Nine Moons. To commoners, the world trembled on the brink of destruction. To some of the blood, too. With Galgan and a few more dead, there would be none to object to Suroth Sabel Meldarath proclaiming herself Empress. She tried not to think of the new name she would take. Thinking on a new name beforehand was bad luck. Well, clearly she failed. Clearly she did actually think of her new name, because that's the only reason that all this went this fell apart.
Oh, it's so satisfying that Tuon doesn't pussyfoot around and just is like, nope, you're fucked. You're done. Get out.
It's good. It's good. Suroth sucks. She's plotting to kill Galgan for her own gain. She is a dark friend. We hate her. This is her just 5 minutes before the fall.
And this has to be some time after Matt lets her go. That is the one thing I'm not entirely sure, because they have to ride from wherever Matt gives Tuon to Furyk Karede. They have to get back to Abu Dar, right?
Yes, they don't have traveling. They just ride on horses. They're a small party, and they're moving quickly, but it took many weeks for the circus to travel that distance. It took a few weeks for the SWAT team to follow the trail and figure out where they had gone. It can't have taken less than 2 weeks to get back, I think.
Right. But we have no clue on timeline here.
No, but one assumes as quickly as horses could possibly take a small party.
Do we have a location where because how far are they from Abu Dar during this battle? Because they're at the
Maldive Narrows.
Narrows.
Right? That's the Mulvane Pass. Mulvane Pass? What's it called?
Okay. Maldive Narrows in Altara is the narrowest point of the Mulvane Gap, a pass through the mountains.
Okay. There we go. All right. Excellent. That even kind of allows for the double emming, because one's a subset of the other.
Right. So they're just traveling north, basically the length of Altara.
Right.
Until they get to the Maldive Narrows.
Because they're trying to get to Mirandy.
Yeah.
Because that's outside of Shan-Chan control.
Okay. So, yeah, we can use those two terms interchangeably, because one's just a spot in the other.
Okay. Cool. Very neat. So, yeah, point is the distance from the edge of the country to the capital of the country, Altara. Mm-hmm. However many 100 miles that is. It's in the hundreds of miles, like 100 or 200 miles sort of range.
Yeah, let me, 100 miles. Yeah, so that's 100 miles, which is not that much. And if we're going Altara, Abu Dar.
And I think Matt says that the circus can go like 10 miles a day or something.
Yeah.
And they're on the road for weeks, so that's like...
That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 500-600 miles according to the legend on the map.
Yeah, I could believe that. Our miles are nerd miles.
I think they're the same thing in Wheel of Time. I think they have the same miles we do. Or I don't... Oh, no, we went through that where that's like some multiple of 10.
Yeah, it's different. The lengths and weights are slightly different, as is their concept of a week. It's very confusing. But it's a while.
And I think Robert Jordan retrocon that just to make some things work.
Sure.
But yes. Yeah, I mean, imagine... it's like traveling all the way across Oregon.
Yeah, 500 miles is a long damn way.
It's a long way.
Especially if all you have is a horse.
On horse, yeah. So I have to assume, even at, they say 20 miles a day is fast on a horse.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a minute. That's several days. Many, many days. Weeks? How many weeks?
I'm so... let's say 600 divided by 20 is 30 days.
Yeah, so we're talking, 3 weeks of hard riding which I don't think you could do. Actually, I think you'd have to take rest days for the sake of the horses and the people. Like, you literally couldn't do that every day. So we're talking more like an actual month.
Yeah, at least.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like it's no way that it's less than a month.
Yeah. So it's weird. It's interesting to go from like the previous chapter where she's leaving Matt to this chapter where she's arriving at Abu Dar, and it feels like no time has passed. But this is the first time I've been like, Jordan, I feel like you're not respecting the distance.
Yeah, because like, how long do we have between that battle that we just covered and the last battle? Is there even a month of time left between those two events?
Yeah. Like,
There's
it doesn't
a lot
feel like
that
it.
2-1 has to do before the last battle can get started. If she's taken a month to ride home and like the rest of the plot is going on while she's just riding, like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if Jordan maybe dropped a 0 in his mental calculation along there.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. It does feel like she teleported back. And we don't have anybody with gateways, right? There's none of the Jolene, none of them have gateways, nothing, nope.
None of them know how to make gateways. So that's a weird hole. That's just
a weird
plot hole.
Yeah.
Unless like literally the same day that she gets rid of Suroth is also the day that she meets with Rand. Like maybe.
Right.
But like I don't think it is. She's not described as being recently entered the city and still has ashes on her cheeks. Like that's not how she's described at that meeting with Rand.
And one thing you really have to realize is the last 3 books do not stick to a timeline the way the first 11 did. There's some weird timey-wimey stuff. There's a lot of people just appearing in places where they need to appear without any explanation. And there's just less... Events aren't anchored in time, right? Like, I think one of my favorite realizations is that Robert Jordan matches the phases of the moon. Whenever a character looks up and sees the moon, it's in the correct phase for the day that event is occurring on, which is insane. It means he knows every date that was happening. He mapped out every single week and every single day pretty accurately, right? Except for I think during Winter's Heart, right? I think so. In Crossroads, I think someone said that looks like he mixed up the timelines a little bit there, but that makes sense because
he?
You know, right? Like, but then last 3 books, Sanderson didn't even try to keep timelines consistent.
Well, he wrote a time-breaking mechanism into it so that way he didn't have to.
Right.
He literally just wrote himself a complete out from the entire problem. It was like, no, time is broken during this period.
Based on how close you are to the Dark One.
Yeah, and that allowed him to just completely take that off of his worry list.
Right. And so now things... And not to mention... The entire first book is written from an Egwene Rand POV, and then the second book is like basically a Perrin POV, and those are happening at the same time.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of overlap in his books as well.
Yeah, and I do suspect that Jordan would have had to also break time at the end.
Sure.
I think that he couldn't have maintained his moon cycles through the end.
I don't know what the hell Jordan was going to do in the last, like, I mean, yeah.
I feel like the time breaking, I think he would have done something similar.
Sure. Yeah.
To just be like, no, let's not worry about timelines. Let's just warp reality itself. That makes sense. It's quantum, right? Like we got like an event horizon. It makes sense that like everything's spaghettifying. It's fine.
At the same time, I don't know what Jordan would have done because he amazed me over and over and over again. You know,
he wrote himself into some goddamn corners and the cracks were showing at this point in the series. I don't think he was going to manage to like hold it all together.
There is, you know, and I always have to remember this, but there's a part of me that when I found out that another author was finishing the series, I was relieved because I wasn't sure Jordan was going to be able to do it because he was just going to keep writing more.
I wouldn't have had a problem with that.
I know. I don't know. I don't know if I could have, if the series continued to drag on without coming to a close. I know in Knife of Dreams. Knife of Dreams is the redemption book. That shows me that he wasn't going to be stuck, right? But for a while, I was worried.
Yeah. No, Knife of Dreams just takes all that worry away.
It does. It really does. The fact that this is the chapter where Suroth goes away, right? We wrap that up, right?
It's the epilogue, and it's like, yes, get Suroth. Suroth gets taken out in an epilogue. Like, you've been here since book 2, bitch. You got taken out in an epilogue.
I know, but that's a pretty significant epilogue, right? Like,
it is.
Yeah,
it is. It's great. It's great. But it's also like, ha-ha. He can pack so much even into an epilogue, even taking out one of our first mini bosses in an epilogue. That's how good he is.
So back to the chapter itself.
Yeah.
They get a report that, again, this is just the numbers of troops, right? 100,000 troops lay in waiting for the Seanchan. So I wasn't exactly sure what this report was. Something about Ituralde.
Yeah.
So Suroth has a group of troops commanded by, what is this guy's name? It's like a team name. Turon, not Turok. Turon, right.
And not Tuon.
Not Tuon, right. Ugh, God damn it, Jordan. And they're basically surrounded by Ituralde, right? He's got 100,000 troops on one side and 200,000 troops on the other, which again, 300,000 people. Like, that's such a big fucking army. And it's not even one of the main armies. It's the side army. Okay, anyway.
Yeah. The Seanchan are like, it's like Russia. There's just more people in their army than you could possibly fathom.
But even Ituralde has a giant army. Like, that's his army of 300,000 people, right? Like,
that's true.
That's insane.
Yeah. So yeah, Turon has been this is the thing where Ituralde lit a bunch of fires and has been being chased out of Terabon, shedding Terabonners as he goes. The Seanchan army is coming after him. This is that. We're getting a snapshot picture of that, where the Seanchan army is running headlong into a battle situation where the eyes in the sky see it as being bad because Ituralde is good at his job, but the guy on the ground is committed and can't do anything about it.
So what I'm trying to figure out is, where did the 200,000 come from after Turon crossed the border? I know the 100,000, those are the ones Ituralde has, right? That's his army. And then this force of 200,000 people comes out of fucking nowhere.
Maybe that's... Yeah, because then they talk about Chison still hasn't found who created that little mess in the north. That's Matt. The little mess in the north is Matt.
Right. And I don't know if this group of troops is ever addressed again. Let me look up Ituralde.
Yeah, like, again, this is stuff I don't normally try to make sense of. And now, but I'm looking at it just like, yeah, we're just like throwing around 100,000, 200,000 soldiers without really being clear about who they are, where they're coming from, who they're trying to attack. What's happening?
Yeah, and like in the Gathering Storm, Ituralde crushes the Seanchan army. He executes General Turon, right? And then he's trapped, and Rand comes and rescues him.
Right.
But that's no explanation of the 200,000 that are behind that troop, right? They must have crushed him. So, I mean, I guess we can look at what they decide they're doing with it. But yeah, in the Gathering Storm, he is outnumbered, right? Ituralde is outnumbered, and it's like,
how do we square this with that?
Yeah, how do we square him being outnumbered with the 300,000 troops that he supposedly has and crushed the Seanchan with?
Yeah, because also it says, has Turon gotten an accurate count of how many men came out of these mountains to join Ituralde when he crossed into Eredamon? Which, like, I thought he was done picking people up. I thought he was entirely in a losing soldiers part of his, like, I didn't realize that he gained more people when he got to Eredamon, except apparently he does, according to this. Oh, unless... No. I bet this is his feint, right? This is Ituralde's big tricky thing, right? Is he makes it look like he has a huge army.
Yeah, that's what he did in the prologue. Right, he was doing that in the prologue of this book.
Oh, that has happened. Right, we did that already. So he can't be doing that again.
Mm-mm.
Okay, never mind.
Unless this is just weird, timey-wimey stuff, and like, this is like the prologue is happening at the same time.
Which general did Ituralde kill?
In the next book, he will kill.
Okay.
Turon. Not Turok, not Tuon, Turon.
Secret love child.
Secret love child. So that's I think these troops were completely forgotten about.
If anyone has an explanation, please email us, WoTSpoilers@gmail.com.
Where did they come from? Where did they go? Yeah, so there's just like these 200,000 troops that appear out of nowhere and disappear again. I don't know where they come from. I don't know where they go. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why are these written in here? Feels like Jordan had a reason for it and then Sanderson didn't pick up on it.
I hope we can figure it out.
Yeah.
I hope that somewhere along the line we figure it out or someone clues us in. But yeah, for now, shrugging emoji.
Yeah. Anyway, Suroth says if he survives this debacle, Turon, I'll have his head. He does not. After all, that kills him.
Yeah.
Golgun signed the orders raising Tylee Kirgun to Lieutenant General. Okay. Another thread that I think was highly dropped. I think Tylee Kirgun was going to be... I think Perrin was supposed to be more involved in the negotiations of the army with the Shan-Chan. Tylee was going to be raised up. She was going to be the leader of the Shan-Chan armies. She was going to work with Perrin. That's how I think the army should have been involved. At least part of them should have been involved that way. And Tylee is just forgotten about as a character. Yep,
we get like a minor encounter. She does get a tiny bit of page time, but in like the intro of the next book, it's in the prologue. Yeah, no, she was clearly being set up to be a very important part of how Perrin factored into dealing with the Shan-Chan issue and the last battle.
But again, because we know that Jordan left no notes for Perrin on the last battle, and so Sanderson wrote whatever he wanted, and it didn't include any of the obvious setup that Tylee was part of, and Perrin's involvement with the Shan-Chan.
Yeah. I really wanted to see more of Tylee. Mm-hmm. She's like a Gyanan, She's just a basic rank and file soldier who happens to be in proximity to our main cast and is getting to experience that. And I wanted more of that.
And she basically heads back to Abu Dar, gets attacked by Trollocs, and reports with Tuon, and then we never see her again.
Yep. It's a bummer.
Yeah. No, I would have loved to have seen basically like Rand fighting the last battle, and in comes Mat and Perrin with the Shan-Chan army behind them to save the day instead of the way it worked.
And then they can just be like, you know what we're done with as of right now?
Yeah.
Slavery. Because we are Mat and Perrin, and we do not like that bullshit. So we're done. We're not doing that anymore. It would have been great. Would have been fantastic.
And that would have helped what was the prophecy? The North and the East must be as one, and the South and the West must be as one. The two shall be as one, right? Like,
yeah.
Perrin really was set up to take over the South, right? Mat was really set up to take over the West.
Yeah, and as long as you don't steal Perrin's wife, slavery is off the table.
Right.
You steal Perrin's wife, we can negotiate on the slavery thing, apparently. Apparently. I'm just going to pretend I didn't say that.
You're a parent when.
All right, so Suroth is getting all jealous of Golgun. He's going to be emperor, wah, wah, wah. And then the door opens dramatically.
Then Tuon walks in, yeah.
Deathwatch guards.
And they do the thing, they throw Elbar's head across the table. Suroth sees it and goes, oh, he not acting under my order is bad man.
Yep, that's what she does. She's like, I know who he was really working for sure. Definitely isn't my guy across the table who's my enemy right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, you had that story really well prepared, Suroth. Like, she just snaps off a story. No shock, no like, oh my God, what happened? Just like, oh, no, I know who he was working for. I know exactly why he was doing what he was doing. And it's like...
Could you be more obvious?
Could you be a little... Yeah.
Just skosh more obvious. I don't think we're getting the message loud and clear yet.
Mm-hmm. And so, and Tuon doesn't mess around with that.
Yeah, no. I love the little wordplay, though, where she's like, oh, I'm so sorry if he offended you in any way. Like, clearly you just killed him because he offended you. And she's like, offended me?
Yes. I guess trying to kill me is offensive. Yep.
You could say he offended me, but he tried to kill me. And my husband. I'm not going to mention that, but also my husband. Because, for all of her complicated weirdness with Mat, she feels defensive of her husband, right? If this man tried to kill her husband, like, she will go for your jugular and not let go.
This is because you get those moments from Tuon where she's like, maybe I don't have to be afraid of my husband. Maybe I don't have to try and kill him. Maybe I can depend on him. These like moments of clarity where she's like, oh my God, I like Mat, and I like the idea of being able to lean on, trust, depend, love my husband.
Right, exactly. So, like, she's got a defensive streak coming out here. Like, she's not going to mention anything about her Prince of Ravens because, like, cards close to the chest and all that. But, like, that she's got a bit of a defensive, like, I will cut a bitch for threatening my husband. Even if she didn't know he was my husband, doesn't matter. I'm defensive because I'm Tuon.
And so then, do you want to read out this little section, those last maybe 2 paragraphs?
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good stuff. This is some comeuppance. Tuon looked over Suroth's head. She met Galgon's eyes, and Abaldar's, and Yamada's, and those of everyone in the blood, but not Suroth's. It is well known that Zared Elbar was Suroth's man completely. He did nothing that she did not order. Therefore, Suroth Sabel Meldaroth is no more. This Daku Vale will serve the Death Watch Guard as they wish, until her hair has grown enough for her to be decent when she is sent to the block for sale. Suroth never thought of the knife she had intended to use to open her veins, a knife beyond reach in her apartments. She could not think at all. She started screaming, a wordless howl, before they even began cutting her clothing off.
Suroth, that would be the find out part of your life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes. You have concluded the fucking around portion of your life.
And you will now be finding out.
Yeah.
Some really nice, dark friends just getting fucked. Now, it's always sad when they get fucked for just being bad people rather than being dark friends. For me, I always want them to be like, you're a dark friend, and call them out. But it's like, no, you just suck, and you're a traitor.
Yeah, because if she was a dark friend, then we would not be having yet another woman go into slavery rather than simply being killed. Right. I feel like if there was a good, you're a dark friend, then it would be like, and now we shall slit her throat and drain her blood onto the floor, in front of everyone, you know?
That is something Jordan also hates killing females, right? All of his women characters, not all, but most of his women characters are imprisoned or enslaved rather than killed. Even Messaana isn't killed. Her brain is broken.
Nope. But the heart that beats blood to the ovaries is still functioning. So,
right. Yeah. Same thing with Yeah,
it's I would rather have seen Suroth get killed like a common criminal in front of the entire blood just out of nowhere because she's a dark friend than we're gonna do some weird implied nasty shit off screen and then a lifetime of brainwashing and slavery.
Think about our evil women. Galena, Elaida, Suroth, Moghedien, Messaana, right? All people who are enslaved, women are often enslaved. The evil women are enslaved rather than killed, whereas the evil men are killed.
Yep. It's we can't just kill them. We have to put them through something even worse because death is too scary and bad for women to handle, apparently.
I mean, too scary for Jordan to handle, right? He says it in his books. I don't like killing women. He is not a fan of it.
Yeah, and here is the evidence of that, because it really would have been satisfying for Tuon to just kill Suroth with her bare hands in front of the whole crowd. What? That would be the entrance I'd want to make as Tuon, to be like, oh, everyone in my family is dead and I'm the only one left. I need to show everyone I am not to be fucked with. What I would do is I would walk into a court full of people and just rip someone's fucking throat out with my bare hands and be like, anyone else want to question me?
I think it would be really cool callback to have her Lopar do it.
Exactly. Walk in, set the big kitty on the bad lady, and just let her be torn limb from limb in front of everyone and say, anyone else have any fucking questions?
Right.
That would be how I would want to re-enter the space as Tuon in that moment, rather than the Death Watch guards are just gonna put her into the mass of enslavement, whatever. Give me some gore.
Because Suroth is a threat. She should be killed. She shouldn't be kept as a Daku Vale, where she could.
She's a dark friend. She has hurt our Supergirls. She's the reason why Egwene has all the trauma that she has. Well, most of the trauma that she has.
Her and Leandrin. Oh, Leandrin's another one who gets away with. Doesn't end up being.
She just gets punished forever.
Yeah,
that's all. That's all. Yeah, it's Yeah.
It's actually interesting when you think about, we want to end all these bad moral long-term punishments, but all the bad guys are that's what their punishment is to suffer forever, right? And if we get rid of all the slavery that's part of our world, then we don't have a punishment for the bad guys. bad girls.
We need slavery in order to No, these are mental pretzels I would like to not be in, please and thank you.
Yeah. So that it's definitely a fate that we've noticed as much. I think Sanderson does a little more of killing off of the women than Jordan did. Like, I mean, we get, Lanfear is killed by Perrin, and a lot of our, good female heroes are killed off, but
well, it's different if they're the heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
Shall we finish with the Pavara POV?
Yeah, this is the hook for the next book. This really the next episode on, that's what this is. This is not the tying up of a plot. This is the opening. The opening of the plot,
right? Which is Pavara bonding Andral. Although we don't meet Andral in this one.
Yeah, this is the opening of how the Black Tower gets redeemed.
Right.
This is the beginning of what leads to Loghain not getting killed and being able to take the mantle of power instead. This is the beginning of that. And yeah, more specifically, the Andral of it all is
the Andral of it all
made possible by Pavara. Because what is an awesome, strong woman character for, if not pumping up some random man-child that just came in at the last minute? But why else would we have strong female characters if not just make these men characters suddenly make sense?
Well, duh.
Yes. Anyway, I like Pavara. I like being in her head. I like the way she thinks and deals with the other Aes Sedai.
Do you want to go into the other Aes Sedai at all? Tarnafir, Jezra, Malaire, Desala, Javindra.
It's going to be more relevant in the next book.
Yeah.
I won't remember anything that we go over at this point by the time we get to them in the next book, so we'll have to go over it anyway. But, I mean, we could do a nutshell summary of them.
Yeah. So these are all the Aes Sedai that essentially Pavara's I think there's some hint that they're red and they don't absolutely fucking hate men.
Yes. These are the 6 reds that they were able to come up with / order to participate in the first ever Red Sisters bonding Ashaman experiment.
Now, Javindra is the one that Pavara sort of developed the plan with, right? She was the Red. She helped take Suan into custody, but she's been around for a while, but more as just sort of Pavara's friend.
Oh, wait, no. Javindra is the one who had to get ordered to do it. Javindra was only there at Sutama's command, given when Pavara and Tarna could not come up with enough names to suit the highest. So it's Pavara and Tarna that come up with this plan.
Okay. I'm looking at Pavara and Javindra meet with Sutama in her rooms and discuss this plan.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's after Sutama orders her to be part of it. That's probably the interview to be like,
yes,
you're doing this now.
Yes, yeah. So I don't think she wanted a different plan, I think, but she ended up getting roped in or something like that. Desala is part of the group that captured Leanne.
Ah, okay.
But that's the only other time she's mentioned before this. That's in the prologue of Knife of Dreams. So she's a new Knife of Dreams Aes Sedai.
All right.
Tarnafir, she's actually been around for a while. She's done a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So Galena makes a pass at her, right? And Tarna declines. She's sent to Saladar as an emissary.
Yeah. That's what I remember her most for, is her interactions with Elaine in Saladar. And she's currently the keeper. She's replaced Alviarin as keeper.
That's right.
There's a mention here about how she's here because she feels committed to the cause because she helped conceive of it, but also it's going to be extra hard for her to have warders given that she's the keeper.
It does seem really weird that she would leave the White Tower as keeper.
She just got appointed after Alviarin got disgraced. It seems very, very politically sketchy, but she feels torn in 2 directions, right? She's like, I helped conceive this plan. I can't not risk it with my fellow sisters, especially given how few people we have to work with. So she clearly is less committed to Elaida's Amerlincy than she is to the future of the world, you know? Exactly, Vuji. Any excuse to be away from Elaida.
Yeah. Jezreel, also a new Knife of Dreams Aes Sedai. Her first mention is escorting Egwene to classes and dosing with Forkroot. So she's part of that, influenced by Egwene group, but then the only other mention is in this chapter of her.
Oh, so she's one of the ones that Egwene is trying to convince at one point. No, that's later. That's in the next book. That's a different J name. Never mind.
She's not in any of the Sanderson books.
Yeah, so she's not influenced by Egwene per se.
No, I don't think so. The last one is Malaire, also a Knife of Dreams only character. She confirms to Sylviana that Leanne is who she says. She knows Leanne well enough to answer the questions when people doubt who she is because she was stilled. But again, only a Knife of Dreams. So a lot of these characters, even though they're technically in the Black Tower and probably have bonded somebody, they're not. Sanderson does not really bring them up.
I was wondering about that because the Black Tower Aes Sedai plot really hinges around the other Tower Aes Sedai, the multi-Aja embassy that got forcibly bonded before. They make up the bulk of the names that I remember from how that plot goes down, aside from Pavara. So I was going to ask, like, the other 5 Reds, we don't see them again?
Javindra is the only one. She and Pavara have a conversation about, now we have to ask permission to leave in Towers of Midnight. Okay.
And so presumably they all get turned, or are any of them Dark Friends?
None of them are Dark Friends as far as we know.
Okay. Yeah. So they presumably get turned and burned up somehow during the battle.
Yes, because all of them except Pavara are turned.
Right.
Is my understanding.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, there is another scene with Tarna because Pavara looks into her eyes and is like, that's not Tarna anymore.
That's right. Okay. That's right.
Yeah. So we don't see that happen to the rest of them, but it's very fair to assume that it does, given that they don't show up going, haha, I have also had a Pavara plot off on the side. That's a bummer. These are the Reds who could have been the good seeds of a new thing because they were willing to be part of this and they weren't Dark Friends, and yet they get ground up in the churn of this plot to the point that they don't even get page time to show for their effort. Ugh, rough.
So all those that are just Knife of Dreams, they're just there to fill in the 6.
That's a bummer. Yeah, that's got to be stuff that Sanderson let go because he wanted to do his own thing instead.
I mean, it's just there's so many Aes Sedai. You can't
for sure
say the fate of every single one of them.
Yeah, these were ones who were not worth it, apparently. That's fine. We're not bitter at all.
So they make a couple of rules. They're not going to bond anyone who's showing signs of madness, which is, I mean, they're all kind of showing signs of madness, so good luck with that.
Well, they don't know what they're walking into. They're
don't.
Guesstimating.
And later they decide no children, right? That's that whole discussion about how, we're not going to bond anyone who's mad. We're also not going to bond anyone who's a child, which freaks out the Ashman who are standing there because they're like, what do you mean no children? No children what?
Fair.
Yeah.
That's a fair concern to have. What do you mean? What, no children what? You need to finish that sentence, please.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I totally get why, right? Because not only do they see warders as, big, strong, fighty men who might die, there's also often a very, intimate, sometimes romantic, sometimes sexual, always very intimate connection. And they're we are hundreds of years old, mature adult women. No intimacy with children.
Right.
Ugh, we're not weirdos.
No. Something interesting, the wall.
Yeah, the wall.
Was nowhere higher than 4 or 5 paces she could see, right? Really far, we've seen this remarked. Weeds grew along the uneven top. What? I was under this understanding these were being put up by the power and quickly. And later on it's implied that these are going up quickly and are being actively built on a regular basis. Why the fuck is there grass growing on top of it?
The only thing I can think is that Taim took all that construction energy and turned it into making his palace that we see in lavish, elaborate detail later. That's the best I can figure, is that he was I'm building these walls, and now I'm building a palace, and now I'm putting less and less effort into the walls as I put more and more into the palace. Because the palace is real fucking built up. The palace is not half finished.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, he's doing an Elaida, right? I'm just going to stop working on the important thing and put all of that dedication into, okay, so the wall has been untouched for a while because the palace has been the thing he wants.
Yeah. Because 5 or 6 paces is enough to keep out casual passersby, gawkers, sheep, children throwing rocks. It's enough to have secrecy.
That's 5 or 6 yards, that's over my head. Like, that's not a short wall.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's more than enough to put on the appearance of making big walls like Tar Valon, but then, you know, much like the unfinished wall in the last chapter, it's a decoy for what's actually going on. I think that's why there's weeds on it, is because, like, the decoy has been serving its purpose for a while now.
We get a little bit about the training, right? We know they're being forced. The men are being forced to hold as much power as possible, to gain power as quickly as possible. Some of them are dying. The White Tower would never have those losses because they find their novices as special, unique flowers that they want to bloom, whereas the Black Tower is trying to get ready for the last battle in, like, 2 years.
Right. They're like, training losses is what it is. It's fine. Yeah, I like how her first reaction to seeing the men with the different ranks is to put them into the Aes Sedai ranks. Because Rand very specifically patterned them after that. And, you know, Pevara is like, immediately wants to think of them like that. And I was like, no, gotta maintain my biases. And I was like, no, Pevara, like, you're picking up on what Rand is putting down. This is how it's supposed to be.
But in a lot of ways, there is a very different implication between novice and soldier, right? A soldier is someone who will fight and die for the cause, even no matter how, you know, this isn't a recruit, this isn't a grunt, this is someone who is willing to fight and die.
That is true.
From the moment they arrive. And that also explains the different training regimen, because the training regimen is the fight that you might die from.
Right. And I mean, as you said, like, we're trying to create a battle-ready force in 2 years. It's not the same as trying to create an institution of learning that will last for thousands of years. They're very different requests. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not that it's one's better than the other. I mean, objectively, one is better than the other, but, like, they serve different purposes. And this would make a lot of sense if it wasn't, you know, a Dark Friend specifically ruining everything on purpose.
So there's 3 people at the gate that they walk up to. There's a dedicated who goes off to deliver the message. And then 2 soldiers, Enkazin and Samuel Alcine. Yeah. Right, so we got an Alcine boy, we got a Two Rivers boy.
We got a Two Rivers kid.
And then, you know, what is he? Saldaean?
Yeah, I think so.
No name on the dedicated I could find.
Really?
Who goes off.
Interesting.
Could not figure out who that was, so...
He's Mirandian, we know that.
Yeah. I'm looking up Wheel of Time Black Tower characters. Because we don't have a lot of dedicated, actually. Most of them are either Aes Sedai or soldiers. Nope, no Mirandian dedicated in the list, as far as I can tell.
Okay. Nameless bro.
A nameless bro. Nothing... Can't track him down, just a bro.
But he just serves as a messenger.
Yep.
Makes a gateway, goes through, comes back half an hour later, brings them through. That's all he does. Very, very Andril of him. Very page boy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one assumes that this is their tower. They've memorized locations. They can make gateways
exactly
all day, every day, all over it, right?
Yeah, I would assume that the entire site of the Black Tower is within their gatewayable radius.
So they say, you know, take us to your leader, your Mahale.
Yeah, and they go through the palace, which might have belonged to any noble with a taste for tapestries showing battles and red and black floor tiles.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where have we seen that theme before?
Moradin, right? So one assumes at this point that Taim is directly under the tutelage of Moradin.
Yes, I definitely think at this point he is fully in his Forsaken apprenticeship phase.
I mean, I think he was before. Like, Demandred rescued him, right? That's the whole, like...
Yes.
Whether he was Demandred at any given point, any of the things that are similar between them can be explained because he was rescued by Demandred from the Aes Sedai and trained by a Forsaken before he showed up to hang out with Matt.
Right.
With Rand.
But now he's, like... got his power, got his directive, is like performing his task, basically. Like, right. All right, like, you're doing the thing, here's a little juice, like, see what you can do with it, baby Forsaken. He's a baby Forsaken right now.
Yeah, and so this Morandian is like, the Mahale doesn't associate with the likes of me. That makes me wonder, like, this has got to be one of the good, quote unquote.
And or there's just an MLM hierarchy vibe going on, you know?
Sure.
Like if you earn enough points by bashing enough heads, then you can be allowed into his presence for a few moments, you know? Cult of personality shit. And it's a big palace that they get led through. Like, it is elaborate, it is fancy, it seems like you should be prioritizing the walls before your palace. But go off, Elaida 2.0.
And don't forget that anyone with both the dragon and the sword is probably a Dark Friend at this point.
I think everyone...
everyone in the Black Tower, right? They're Asha'man with Perrin, they're Asha'man with Rand, with the Sword and the Dragon collar. But anyone who's in the tower with the Sword and the Dragon, I'm pretty sure is a Dark Friend. Or turned. Yeah,
at this point, I believe that is correct. That if they have both pins and they're in the room with Taim, they are on his team.
Yeah. So as they're going in, broad stone stairs rose to a wide landing in front of tall, twinned doors. Each bore a gauntleted fist gripping 3 lightning bolts, carved large and gilded.
Yes, you were telling me about this before we turned recording on.
So that line took me down a rabbit hole. A very, very deep rabbit hole that went absolutely nowhere. So, to save you from going down that same rabbit hole, I will say there are 3 times in the presence of Forsaken where a fist-clutching lightning bolts is mentioned. In The Dragon Reborn, chapter 51, when the girls are kidnapped by Balal, right? Or the Black Aja associated with Balal, we'll say.
The High Lord Salmon.
The High Lord Salmon. They are kidnapped in a carriage that has a fist holding lightning bolts, right? So there you've got your Balal connection. Then, in The Fires of Heaven, in Teleron Riyadh, the back of Samael's throne has that same symbol, right? So then you've got this link, but at that point, Balal's dead because he long dead, right? He got a book dead.
Oh,
Balal got balefired at the end of The Dragon Reborn and The Fires of Heaven.
He's short dead.
He's short dead. And so I was trying to somehow link Samael not dying at the inn Shadar Logoth, escaping and being Taim. Or somehow influencing Taim. Like, does not work. There's a little bit in A Crown of Swords. Samael and Taim are almost looks like that one person could be traveling, right? They're in alternating chapters, and it almost feels like you could have the character be in both. But then there's a moment where the scene continues like 10 chapters later between Taim and Rand. And in that time, Samuel's been doing stuff, and so it's just not possible for them to be the same person, right? Like, but I went really deep into this, like, okay, they both have the same symbol on their backs. The best I can come up with is that somehow it's like the Under Mahale, right? It's like a battle leader, someone who is in charge of troops, or someone, maybe a symbol, right? It's the symbol of power. Our lightning bolts in a fist is the symbol of a male channeler. So maybe that's all it is?
Yeah, it does seem to be that a fist clutching lightning is an expression of masculine magical violence and force and power. Right.
But I'm just trying to connect these 3 events where like the symbol appears 3 times and it's all Forsaken related, right?
Maybe it means bad guy with magic. Maybe that's what Robert Jordan is telegraphing, is it's like when they're trying to hide in plain sight, they use a fist clutching lightning. Like, that's just how bad guys think when they want to like be clever and also, you know, obscure their stuff just a tiny bit.
What I do find funny though is everything that Mahale touches is gilded. It's not gold, it's gilded.
That seems deliberate.
That seems very deliberate, including these fists with lightning bolts. It's not real gold, it's gilded. Mm-hmm. He's not a real Forsaken. He's a gilded Forsaken. Yeah,
he's just some
Forsaken on the outside. Exactly.
Given the title, but like, I also notice he does really like to wear the dragons on his coat, but he doesn't want to wear the pins. He wants to take on the trappings and authority of the Dragon Reborn. He doesn't want to actually accept the like hierarchical system that the literal Dragon Reborn imposed.
Right. He very much makes a point of, I am not part of this system, right? Like,
but also he's willing to lean on the iconography if it will work on his audience, right? Like he's slimy and two-faced like that. Can't even stand on his own principles. He has no principles.
Right. The chamber the Terran led them to was a throne room where a ring of spiral-cut black columns supported once blah, 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 blah. Its interior layered with gilt and half filled with gilded lamps hanging on gilded chains. I think Jordan is pointing out the guild.
Yep. Yeah. And then he points out that every single one of the men that's in the room all have like hard faces, leering faces, cruel faces. And I'm like, any group where you've got 100 people who are all just looking at you with the same expression, you should be red flagging all over the play. Even if it's a happy face, you should still be worried if there's 100 people who are all unanimously having an emotion at you. Like, that is real scary.
The floor tiles were red and black here too. It's just like forsaken. Like the number of forsaken things that are being, Jordan's just like, yes, Tam is a bad guy, just in case you were wondering. Sorry, Taim.
It's like does he not have ominous music playing out of hidden speakers somewhere in these hallways, right? Like, it's just so clearly a bad idea to walk into this thing. But like, as Aes Sedai, they think all of my training is to be unnerved by these men. I need to ignore all these warning signals because I'm just being overly sensitive. Like, no, you're street smarts. You checked them at the door. Bad call.
Yeah. He was tall with strongly hooked nose and an air of physical strength about him. An air of darkness, too. Yeah, that would be the true power?
Yeah. That's his intimidation weaves. That's his connection to the Dark One. That's him knowing that he hangs out with Forsaken on his lunch break. Like, he's radiating scary shit. And they're just like, we're just Reds who are overly sensitive to Ashaman. We'll be fine. You're not going to be fine. You're not going to be fine at all.
So they say, we want to discuss bonding Ashamanu's orders, right? You've bonded 51 sisters against their will. And remember, he lets them bond 47. And that's a very particular number.
Yeah,
Why is that?
Yeah.
And it's because some of them already been bonded. So Mishrael, right, is this Ashaman who goes, he's a tall golden-haired man, says, why should we allow Aes Sedai to take any... and he says M, and then Taim cracks his head. Because he was about to say any more.
Uh-huh.
He was about to give away... that Aes Sedai, Tower Aes Sedai, or, no, wait, which Aes Sedai are these? The Rebel Aes Sedai. Didn't they send a delegation? Rand's Aes Sedai? Who's already bonded to Ashaman? I'm getting the groups of Aes Sedai confused. I'm sorry.
So you're asking, why should we allow us to, where did those Ashaman come from? Was that the question? I'm sorry.
Mishrael is about to give away the fact that the Rebel Aes Sedai waiting outside agreed to bond 47. Is that already happened?
Oh.
They went to Shadar Logoth after the cleansing, decided that there was a threat, and so sent a delegation to the Black Tower to propose bonding.
Right. And what happened with them? They're still just vibing on the outside? Oh, okay, so they are in Towers of Midnight still waiting. Interesting. So Taim makes those wait on the outside, but then receives this delegation of Reds, and because Chaos says, sure, you can bond my men without making them wait or anything, because he's like, the chaos of having 6 Reds is way better than the other delegation with way more women. Like, this is a small enough group to overwhelm.
So they have already agreed. They have agreed with the Rebel Aes Sedai to bond 47.
Yeah, but they haven't actually followed through with it. They've simply brokered the agreement.
Right.
Okay, so then, that is the line. Why should we allow Aes Sedai to take any more? Because, they all saw Taim make that deal, though obviously it hasn't gotten followed through with, so...
4 have to be already bonded, right? Because remember, there were 51 Aes Sedai in Elaida's group that got bonded. And the reason they're allowing the Rebels 47 is because 4 of them have already been bonded, right?
Right.
Who are those 4? There's so many different delegations. I think we got them all. It's hard to keep them straight.
It is. I've never felt the need to keep them as straight as the podcast requires me to keep them. Yeah, I agree, Athlon. It's 6 is just different than 47. It's an order of magnitude different. They also show up with not nearly enough Aes Sedai to bond 51 men. It's like
no,
6 times 4 is only 28.
Well, but that's not their goal, right? That was the other group. That was the Rebel group, right? The Rebel group showed up with way more.
Yeah.
Ugh, okay. Anyway, I'm done. My brain stopped working on this. It's like, there's too much research. Have fun cutting that up, editing radio. That's gonna be tough.
The important thing is that the Rebel Aes Sedai are being stalled, and the Red Aes Sedai are brought right into the fold because they're a much easier delegation to absorb and turn and keep captive.
Yes. And they do pretty much get absorbed and turned and kept captive.
Yeah, because that's what they did with the other Red delegation, right? The last time that there was a Red attack force, they all got bonded and attacked. Right. The rebels show up, and that's a weirder thing, so they're being held at arm's length. But now Reds showed up again, and it's like, oh, we know what we do with Reds. We already have an established way of dealing with Reds. Yeah, so that's a head-scratcher, but also just ultimately it comes out bad for everyone.
Yes.
So yeah, Miss Ryla gets hit in the head for almost spilling the beans about the rebel Aes Sedai. That is where this entire mess came from, is Miss Ryla almost spills beans and gets his skull cracked for his trouble.
Yeah. And we were trying to figure out what beans he was spilling.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, his skull is cracked. He needs healing, but he's not going to get it until after this audience is over, right? Like the one Aes Sedai.
Which is so brutal and cruel. Yeah.
We've seen that before with them, but yeah, you got to wonder how many training losses are just from cruelty rather than from like literally losing control with the power, and it was an unavoidable result of forcing. Like, you could have just healed the man's concussion.
Or the brain bleed, because his skull, this isn't a concussion, his skull is cracked. Like, right, that's exactly. Not a concussion.
Like,
yeah.
But I mean, we've seen it over and over again. They hit each other in the head and then say if they live through the night, we'll heal them. This isn't the first time.
No.
It's terrible. And like literally one of the Aes Sedai says, with your permission, sort of as a perfunctory thing. And Taim's like, I literally explicitly do not give you permission. I am going to take time out of my day to make sure that this man does not get medical attention. Which is just like a terrible way to engender loyalty, in my opinion. It seems to work for the bad guys in all the stories, all the movies, all the books. It seems to work, but...
Works for the NFL.
Oh. My brain hurts just literally thinking about it.
So, I mean, yeah, so he says, yeah, sure, no problem, and then laughs the most evil, like, that scene in Austin Powers where they're doing the evil laugh and then they peter out. Like, that's exactly what I'm imagining, because it's like, what happens after the evil laugh? That everybody in the room, like, this is just jackals cawing at them. It's...
Yeah.
Oh, it's chilling.
Yes,
it's chilling.
It is very much the hyenas in Lion King circling around and giggling. It's like, there is no way to read this that isn't ominous. It simply does not exist.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, he's like, she gives her explanation for, we're allowed to bond Ashawan, and he's just like, are you done talking? Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to say? Fair's fair. Like, go for it. Have good luck with that. He basically says good luck with that.
Enjoy grabbing the tiger by the tail, right? Like,
he's like, not my problem if you want to fuck around. Here's a room full of find out. Have at it. It's ominous. And then he really reinforces the fact that he is fully forsaken.
Right.
With his last line, because we know that let the Lord of Chaos rule is an injunction from the Dark One direct from Sheol Ghul.
Right.
Like, no one's saying that who is not, like, close to the top of where all the evil is coming from.
And we've done speculation about who is the Lord of Chaos. Is that Rand? Is it just... But it's just letting shit go bad.
Yeah, there is not just one Lord of Chaos. Chaos has a decentralized hierarchy, for all that it's about, it's crushing people. Yeah, it is chaotic. You can't cut the head off of chaos. That's not a thing. Chaos is chaos.
So I kind of wished we'd learned, like, there'd been a little more about that in the final 3 books. I'm not sure the term Lord of Chaos ever comes up again.
But it's a title of a book, so it's, leave that as an exercise to the reader.
It's like when Winter's Heart appears in a couple of other books, or Path of Draggers, Knife of Dream, Winter's Heart, Lord of Chaos. Those have all appeared in other books as something somebody has said.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a fun way to name books. It's like naming your album one of the random lyrics from a song, Looking at you, Alanis Morissette.
That is ironic.
Jagged little town. So yeah, I want to do the readout. Can I do the readout?
Do you want to read us out the final Robert Jordan, other than New Spring? This is the last bit that Robert Jordan wrote for us.
Yeah, it would be my honor. But where do I start? Taim shook his head. You do not have my permission. If Mishraila survives till nightfall, he'll be healed. Perhaps the pain will teach him to guard his tongue. You say you want to bond warders? Reds? That last word carried a great deal of contempt, which Pavara chose to ignore. Tarna's eyes could have turned the sun to an icicle, though. Pavara laid a cautionary hand on the other woman's arm as she spoke. Reds have experience with men who can channel. Mutters rose among the watching Ashaman, angry mutters. She ignored that, too. We are not afraid of them. Custom can be as hard to change as law, harder at times, but it has been decided to change ours. Henceforth, Red Sisters may bond warders, but only men who can channel. Each sister may bond as many as she feels comfortable with. Given the Green, for example, I think that is unlikely to be more than 3 or 4. Very well. Pavara blinked in spite of herself. Very well? She must have misunderstood him. He could not have been convinced so easily. Taim's eyes seemed to bore into her head. He spread his hands, and it was a mocking gesture. What would you have me say? Fair is fair? Equal shares? Accept very well, and ask who will let you bond them. Besides, you must remember the old saying, let the Lord of Chaos rule. The chamber erupted with men's laughter. Pavara had never heard any saying like that. The laughter made the hair on the back of her neck try to stand.
Crazy. The end of Book 11 of The Wheel of Time.
The end of Book 11?
Book 11.
The end of Robert Jordan's non-prequel books. We can read the appendix, right?
No.
Fuck.
End of an era.
That's an end of an era. An end of a year. An end of, like, the entire first, like, creative half of the... That's wild.
Wasn't the ending, but it sure is a ending.
It definitely is an ending. That is an ending to be stared at in awe. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for this book. We will do tangents, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Mr. Sanderson's book.
Was my audio any better on the last one with the barrier up? Does that help with the room noise?
Oh, it made such a big difference when you covered it. Like, you can hear it in the audio. Just like, it's like echoey, and then suddenly it's soft and close. And you're like, is that better? It's like, sir. That is so much better.
Yeah, you gotta make sure I put that up. Or, I mean, I'll try and remember too. But yeah, it's
Yeah, it's makes a big difference.
It was acceptable, and then I got lazy and stopped putting it up. And I'm not hearing the audio difference.
Yeah, I think it was because the room was absolute chaos.
Yeah, with the wedding stuff.
Got in the way.
Yeah.
It was just like it was too much shenanigans.
It was too much shenanigans with the wedding stuff. Yeah, that's right. Because the room was full to the brim of boxes for wedding crap.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I'm not going to tell you how to manage your room, which is also a storage closet.
Right, at this point, yeah.
At this point, I can start chiding you for getting it up, though.
Totally. I have 2 things left to do post-wedding. I have to rearrange the garage, because there's a bunch of wedding stuff in there that needs to go into storage, and I need to rearrange the office, because we decided we need to totally change how we're using the office. We've gotten all the other to-do list stuff done, except for thank you cards. Thank you cards are written and sitting in a box, and have been for about 2 weeks. So thank you cards need to get mailed out.
You know, I don't think Brandon and I ever finished the thank you cards.
We had too much help from too many people to get away with that. So
yeah, we did not do quite as wedding-y of a wedding as you, but I'm like remembering like, oh yeah, that dragging, nagging sensation never actually resolved. I think that we just still have half-written thank yous sitting in a box somewhere, because
ours are sealed, embossed, and signed, and they just need to be stamped and sent. So we just need to swing by the post office and drop them off.
Well, I'm proud of you. That's very adult, very responsible.
Well, but they will probably still sit there for 2 months before that happens. That was awesome. Kelsey and Travis sent me this like really cool embosser It says like never from Ex Libre, Never and Seth, from the Library of Never and Seth, and then big S&N letters.
Nice.
So
yeah, I remember she messaged me asking for your shipping address, and I was like, "You're not coming to the wedding?" She's like, "No, stupid bullshit. Life shit came up. Can't make it. Grumble, grumble, grumble." Mm-hmm. So I was really hoping that meant that there was a cool an embosser so your books can be stamped. That is so thoughtful. That is on brand.
That's what's so good about it, is like, oh yeah, that was very on brand for me. Because like we didn't get a lot of presents for the wedding. We asked for people to mostly donate to the honeymoon, because otherwise we couldn't afford a honeymoon.
And did that work?
Yes. I will say that the generosity of Never's friends and family and my friends and family were enough that the wedding and the honeymoon were basically paid for.
Nice. So you can have the experience without like constantly being like, and we're going to be deeper in debt.
So basically, yeah, it was, and certainly, some people were very generous. Some people gave what they could. It was all, it all contributed. My parents especially contributed more than I thought they would, which was very nice of them. And so the whole thing ended up...
Yeah, so with the huge bevy of siblings you have to share their generosity with.
Yeah. So...
Well, that's good.
Think they're all that matters today. Uncle.
Shout outs to chat who's feeling neglected.
I'm sorry that we are taking a while to get to the Wheel of Time stuff. That's the shall we say the danger of being alive? Because in the editing, this all goes at the end. You can ignore it. You can skip right past it. That music pops on, you go, nope, don't care. Your lives are boring, which is fine. But man, it's like letting off steam before you actually start the boiler or something. I don't know. That's a terrible analogy. But you get what I'm saying.
Not how boilers work.
No, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's a terrible analogy. That's not how boilers work at all. I know that. But yeah, it's, me and Elaida are good friends, and sometimes this is the only chance we get to catch up. So it helps us get in the rhythm of things. And yeah, it's the social warm-up to the boiler, right? Yeah, you can't get hot water until you turn the hot water on heater for half an hour or so, right?
If you have one of those heaters, yes.
Do you have instant water, hot water?
No, we just have a hot water heater that's on.
On all the time, yes. But
we have a traditional hot water.
If it were to turn off for a week, you would have to turn it back on and warm it back up for a while, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, like when the power goes out and we don't. Yes, absolutely. I really want to get an on-demand water heater for our kitchen specifically because the hot water heater is on the opposite side of the house.
So it takes a while.
And so occasionally I've run the dishwasher at night and I hear this weird ticking noise and it's like, that's the sound of the fucking plumbing under our bedroom heating up as hot water is drawn from this end of the house over to the dishwasher. I'm like, this is garbage. I'm being woken up to the sound of energy just being wasted. This is trash.
And you're like, hopefully they're insulated pipes, but they're probably not.
I mean, I'm sure they're insulated for code, but it's still wasteful. Like we could just have a little on, because also like dishwashers don't take that much actual water.
No.
But the run from the hot water heater to the dishwasher is like a long way. So I'm just like, I feel like this could be more efficient. But
yeah, I live in one of those apartments where all the plumbing sort of comes up through a center column, and then like the bathroom and the kitchen are radial out from that. So everything's just behind a wall, right? And like the pipes are only like that long. Yeah,
that makes sense. And this is why apartment living is the more like environmentally friendly way to live. I will not be giving up my single family dwelling until I absolutely have to. But I understand that it is like a more environmentally unfriendly decision.
Yeah.
No,
people look at cities and they're gross and disgusting or whatever. They're wasteful, but it's like, but do you know how many people are packed into that space compared to being out in the countryside?
They're much less gross and disgusting. Now we have a proper understanding of plumbing.
Yes. Like
cities literally used to need to replace
disposable.
their populations from the country because they were so deadly. But that changed once we figured out a couple of things about waste management, like a couple of things about germ theory and like quality of air and water. And that really changed a lot.
I heard New York figured out trash cans.
Whoa!
Recently. Did you hear about this?
I did actually. It was like a John Oliver piece or something.
Probably, yeah. But the idea, they just used to put trash bags out on the curb and they got picked up. And for some reason they had a rat problem. Can't imagine.
That?
Yeah.
Can't see how those things are connected.
None related. No. Plague. All right. Shall we make Speduncle happy and actually talk about Prince of the Ravens?
Nah, I think we should make Speduncle specifically unhappy and keep bullshitting about ancient cities. We literally put our headphones on at the same time. Like literally.
It's all about being synchronized. That's how we do this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a very specific set of brain cells that we share for doing this podcast. Yeah. It's kind of like orange cats.
I don't think we have that many brain cells, let's be honest. Yeah, tea is good. I'm switching to Barks root beer. Barks.
Oh, God.
What, sugar?
Root beer.
Root beer. Oh, okay.
I hate root beer. I hate it. I hate mint most in the world.
Are we going to have an issue?
I hate licorice.
So? What does licorice and root beer have in common?
Some recipes. They both taste the same awful to me. I hate them with the same.
Wow.
I hate root beer. Oh my God. No. Absolutely not. Never, ever. I hate root beer because it tastes like anger.
So I have to announce the end of the WoTSpoilers podcast. Apparently we can't work together anymore.
Yeah, well, it's been a good run.
It's been a good run. Yeah, you should have hid that for longer. It's really. Could you just go back into the closet about hating Barks?
No, it's part of my unmasking journey. I'm owning the things I hate. Yeah, no, root beer, I don't know. I cannot. It's just visceral.
Wait, hold on.
Wow. I'm leaning away from the computer like that helps. I've got
you got headphones on. The sound's going with you. I'm in your ears.
So earlier I told you I had Bluetooth set up,
yep.
So now I can hear it on my phone. I went back to wired because my computer could not give me a signal that wasn't pixelating and scratching out. It was like literally too much work for the computer to put that signal out. And I was like, nope, we're wiring back in. Thank you.
I'm a wired guy.
Yeah. I need a longer cable, I guess, so that way I'm just less limited, but oh well.
Is it just a 3.5 jack on both ends?
Yeah, it's just that these are my Bluetooth headphones and it just came with a cable, so I don't have to have special headphones over here. I can just sit down in my normal head because otherwise I have to get my other ones. Look, headphones are a problem.
Headphones and microphones.
Yeah.
I do need to look into getting a new microphone set up.
Yeah. When are you doing that? When is Chloe getting your microphone?
Yeah, thank you. Well, maybe we should talk about that after we're done here. And we can talk about buying me a new setup because she's not getting this one until I get the new one.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually, my support coach, he really wants to make a podcast too. And so I gave him just a few opinions about microphones. And pretty soon he's like, so I got the microphone you told me to get. I'm like, sir?
It's not what happened there, but okay.
He's very autistic, shockingly.
What microphone did he recommend?
I think this one.
Same one? Yeah.
Or maybe I don't even remember, honestly.
I assume you're going to want me to get the same one you got, right? I think that was what our final...
Yeah. Because you were talking about going for an XLR and getting an interface.
I had an interface. I gave you my interface, remember?
Oh, yeah. That is how I got that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it works great.
Because the original mics were USB XLR. They could do both.
They were dual.
And so I got the... Anyway.
Yeah, after the audience.
Yeah, after.
After the audience is freed. They want to hear us talk about the epilogue. Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. WoTSpoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.